and I would have to put Bruce Springsteen right in there. And you and I have been to a bunch of Springsteen shows together. I can't zero in on any one. The first one I ever went to see Bruce, I think, was the RPI Fieldhouse in 1978, I want to say. Um, and fan ever since. But, the shows have always been good. Some have been fantastic. There have been a couple of Albany shows that weren't as good as some of the shows I saw, or you and I saw, like in New York.
Right.
Saw a couple of shows in Hartford that were absolutely awesome. But overall, I think Springsteen is the guy that I've seen the most in concert over the years. And not just because he puts on a great show. It's invigorating. It's kind of a, almost a religious experience. You get inspired by going to one of his shows. You get inspired by the energy and of not just him, but the whole band and the fun that they're having. And if you go back and listen to tapes or recordings of the older shows, the pace was a little bit slower than it is now. And the fact that he and the rest of the band are older and they just go a mile at a minute and don't stop in between songs, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, the first time I saw them was in '99. I had never seen him up until '99 when he came to Albany, and that I almost didn't want to go back and see him again after that show because the mix in Albany was terrible. He was sick that night. Um, I can't remember what the exact day. It was back in April of '99, so it was a tough show
Hmm.
from multiple standpoints, and it was the first time I can say that a show where my ears rang for a week afterwards. So the
What
mix was
what year was it?
'99. Was that November? Yeah.
Yeah,
Holy
there you
cow!
go.
Look at you
How do
with
you
your.
like that?
You know what? You showed up prepared with your.
There's my ticket stub.
Now that was a memorable show, though, and it's one that sticks in Bruce's memory because, from what I understand, and maybe you can elaborate on, you may know more, but after that show, Albany always was a stop on the tour, and he always, from what I've read, has put more energy and effort into shows that have come to this town.
Well, he's from what I understand from folks like Bob Belber and some of the management and like Little Steven, who you and I both had a chance to meet and talk to. Albany has always been a great town for Bruce to play. It's not, in the huge spotlight of New York City or Jersey. They get to work out some of the bugs in the show by coming up here, I think, a little bit, because there have been, if you look at it, I couldn't, you know, say this is a fact, but it always seemed to me like Albany was early on in the tours, the massive tours that just continued on and on. So we'd get to see him early. We'd get to see some, some songs that may not be performed or may not have been performed later on in the tour, or just different versions that would crop up. But that's typical of a Springsteen show as well. You never know what to expect. You don't know what he might start the show with. You don't know what he might finish the show with. You just know that you're going to get something remarkable, and you're going to leave there feeling great about music, feeling great about rock and roll. And that's the thing. It's always that injection of energy that you get, rock and roll energy, by going to one of his shows. When you leave there, you feel great.
Now,
If you,
the first time you and I met Little Steven, you brought up Little Steven, was down at Madison Square Garden prior to, was that 2000 now at that point, I think? I have to go
I
back
don't
and
know.
check my bag of tickets.
That wasn't the show where we had to leave early to catch a train back to
That was
Albany.
the show we had to leave early.
That sucked.
Yeah, that was tough. But that was, what wound up being cool after the fact was that night was recorded for the Live in New York City show.
Hmm. That's
So
right.
how often is it that you get to be part of some kind of music history and be captured on tape?
Yeah. So I mean, that was a great show. There's been so many Springsteen shows that have been awesome that I've seen. Even I went to see him at the Beacon Theater when he just did the solo tour, and that was amazing as well. And I didn't know what to expect from that. So
The Wrecking Ball tour, you had some great point of view pictures. You were right down there as the fans were passing him over the crowd. That shot's amazing. I took that picture and gave it
yeah,
to a couple of my big Springsteen fan friends who were just like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, we were in great seats at the Times Union Center by the side, and I remember when he was running through the crowd, came through and he gave my wife a high five or something like that, and that was one of the highlights of her career, of her concert going career. She'll never forget that. He was all sweaty. He was great.
Yeah. And I think the most fun I've had at a Springsteen show was probably, and I can't remember now, it's dates again. I think it was around 2014 where he opened up with In Excess, Don't Change It, their song In Excess. And he
Mhm.
played the Bee Gees that night, Staying Alive. And I was like, wow, this guy's really ripping it out tonight.
Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk. I'm a woman's man, no time to talk. Music loud and women warm. I've been kicked around since I was born.
Well, that was what they were doing on the Australian tour. They were opening each night with an Australian band song. They did "Friday on My Mind" by the Easy Beats. They did the In Excess tune that you were talking about, and I mean, that's the kind of thing that, he'll just pull something out, and those guys have to perform it, and I think that's great. I mean, that goes back to and I still think people would do it at a show, hold up the signs for requests, and didn't he do oh, I don't know whether it was a wheel or somebody else did that. I think Elvis Costello
That
or
was
somebody
Elvis.
did it.
Was that? Yeah, it was Elvis back at the Palace in
Yeah,
'89.
but we could talk about Bruce Springsteen forever. I mean, there's so many highlights from so many of those shows. And again, I think overall, it's the feeling that you have when you leave that show. That it, this if you stumbled a little bit and you don't have a lot of faith in what you've seen or heard rock and roll wise, you go to one of those shows and it's right back there. It's right back in the pocket.
Absolutely.
So.